It's Lisa here, and I can't tell you how excited I am today. Welcome to season 3 of your Passion, Purpose, and Personal Brand podcast. If you've been following this podcast, you'll notice that I've come out from behind the curtain and we're now on video to have a broader reach in the world. Whether you're joining for the first time or you've been following me all along, I would be remiss if I didn't pause to thank you for joining me along on this path. Today, we're going to talk about where we've been the last 2 years and the vision where we're going as we move into the future. This podcast originally launched right in the middle of the pandemic. It was late 2021, and while I wasn't new to podcasting, I wanted to be able to talk about topics I believe in and care deeply about. The idea of passion and purpose have been driving forces throughout my life, and I want to share these ideas with the world. One thing I know is when you're connected to a bigger purpose more than life being all about you is when life starts to truly get more exciting. Integrating that purpose into who you are impacts how you show up in the world and ultimately the message you send with your personal brand. The goal in the first 2 seasons was about bringing ideas on these topics to inspire, possibly encourage, and even entertain. Looking back, nearly half of our episodes address the topics of passion and purpose. How to go about finding your passion or purpose is not always clear. Many people spend way too much time looking or worrying about if they can identify that purpose. What happens is they try to force the issue, and then when it gets hard, they give up and they feel like a failure because there isn't this clear driving force in their lives. My goal was to feature how regular people like you and people like me, have been able to find it and how the path to get there can look very different to others. If I could come up with one common denominator about the stories we covered in the last 2 seasons, it was that someone was moving along in life doing what they'd been told would lead to success. Then at some point, there was this shift. It might have been experiencing a loss or some life-changing event. It could have been them seeing and witnessing an injustice in the world and deciding they weren't going to stand by. They wanted to make a difference. It might have been seeing a problem and feeling called to create a solution. But in most every case, they were like everyone else, and the spark lit them up where they felt the pull to go do something to help others. Then, there's a lot of talk about personal branding. 20% of the episodes were tips with strategies you might want to consider and tactical examples of things that had worked for others building their personal brands. We also included about 20% of our episodes that spoke to mindset. After all, if you don't start with your mind in the right place, you aren't going to end up where you want to go, or better yet, surpass that and move beyond where you think you could be. We often wonder why things are so hard until we discover that we are the biggest hurdle to ourselves. It's about getting your mind right, rethinking how we make decisions, understanding intuition, and knowing how to leverage the power of our thoughts to create a reality. The remaining episodes address topics to help you get closer to your potential, keeping yourself grounded and calm in the midst of going after what you want, and how passion and purpose can help grow company cultures and make them attractive places where people want to work. That's a solid foundation about topics relating to passion, purpose, and personal brand. And if you've been listening along for the last several weeks, I took a hiatus, and during that time, we created a bridge series of episodes to start today. If you missed out, I invite you to go back and see how we've prepared you for what's coming. We pulled in some of the most popular episodes from the first 2 seasons and built a thought process starting with episode 1-on-1, which was about how to go about looking at what success looks like. What you do is not who you are. Then we looked at the amazing things that happen when you take time to pause and the challenge of moving forward when you're still trying to live in the past. Episode 104 talked about having a word or a filter for the year. Then we went on to overcoming the fear of being visible and the benefits from doing so. 106 was the 7 commitments I made to become my future self. And finally, last week, addressed our distaste for this A word, authenticity, and why it's still important to make it a priority. If I looked at the topics trending right now, these are things people are thinking and talking about. And here's what I learned. More and more people today are interested in the area of personal development and finding meaning in their lives. This is doing the work that contributes to who you become. It's taking responsibility for your growth, and the transformation you experience will impact how you show up as a personal brand. Trending topics in this area were words like empathy, connection, collaboration, intuition, consciousness, and relationships. There were also big trends around topics of culture, and the big one that outranked all the others, sometimes 10 to 1, is the topic of purpose. One that crept out of nowhere, but I can see it's coming, is the idea of reinventing yourself. You may call it your second act or the next chapter of your life, or some fancier terms like freedom or lifestyle design. As I look at what the world is craving for now, for more information, it prompts me to think about what's next for the show. Our new direction will be content that will make a leap into bolder conversations about knowing who we are and learning how to operate in alignment with that. We'll go on a path to help us find purpose and meaning. And I'll be sharing more about my personal transformation that, when I look at it, even shocks me. It will challenge you to think deeper thoughts. It will ignite transformational change. And I guarantee it's going to make you uncomfortable when you realize what you've been hiding from yourself. It's going to satisfy the craving many people have to find fulfillment in their lives. So what's on the horizon? As we work towards what we want in life, we're not always sure where we're going. But one thing I know is that we know how it feels when we reach it. I'm here to help you consider some ways you might shift. It will be a safe space with some vulnerable conversations. It will allow you to see how others are doing it. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to do it alone. I've lived long enough and gathered wisdom that it's now time to share some exciting things that are on the way for you. And as we wrap up, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the show and leave a review. That's how others can find it. And if you aren't already, click on the link in the show notes to subscribe to the So Much More newsletter. Now, go chase your passion. And if it feels right, connect it to a bigger purpose. When you align with who you are truly is when you can become a personal brand of integrity. My wish for you in the season ahead is you can live a life of so much more on the way to discovering your legendary self.